think it's important as well, Brother Bilal, in you discussing the context. I think context is everything. And as you've rightly said, we exist as Muslims among a wider South Asian populace who have overwhelmingly contributed to development of Muslims in the UK. However, we've got to look at some things when we're discussing this, because when we look historically, it's not actually too long ago that the South Asian Muslim community identified themselves as Muslims. That started taking place around the late 80s, especially in the time of the Salman Rushdie affair. Okay. That's when the Muslim identity, South Asian Muslim identity, started coming to the fore and them identifying as that. Previously, it was more of a passive perspective that we saw amongst the South Asian Muslim community, and they sort of were happy to blend and merge with the wider Asian diaspora, irrespective of religion, faith, and backgrounds, because as a caucus, that was the way that they were stronger. Now, in looking at that, I'm only putting that out there for a context to see how there's been an evolution, if you like, a growth to where they are now. And we see that they're populating particular positions in society, which are positive. All of that's positive. However, what we've seen is that from the wider host society, the British society, when they talk anything Muslim, they consider it with a brown face and not a black face. And then when we look in the middle class, let's say substrata, we see that they still consider brown faces and white faces being converts of particular persuasions, particularly or especially Sufi persuasions. And we have to ask ourselves in every instance, why is blackness, why is not the black community or black contingent of Muslims present in these more visible spaces? Why is it that the black Muslim communities are not looked at through the same lens or same prism as prism, not prison, prism as in PRISM, in case anyone has a subliminal message in their head thinking, well, we're going to talk about prisons. No, looking through the same lens through which these other communities, Muslim communities, are looked at. And I would say that being a black Muslim in the West today is a double negative from a societal perspective. Because before being Muslims, those of us who converted, we were black. And we know statistics, various data regarding how we have been perceived, the challenges that are actually there, how we've been overlooked. I'm not going to go into repatriation and everything like this, but whereas there are causes that may be to do with Palestine, for example, the Uyghurs from another aspect, the Jewish faith from one perspective, where we see that there are focuses and solidarity and calls in defense, in support of these other causes. Whenever there comes a black cause, death of yet another black individual, as we saw very recently with the young man Michael, Coca, believe his surname was. When we look at that, when we look at historical legacies of oppression and marginalization, they are being pushed and consigned to obscurity. Whereas other historic abuses of other communities, other ethnicities, have annual celebrations, cannot speak about them in negative ways. If you do, you can be criminalized. You can lose your job. You can be cancelled, if you like, in inverted commas. So, and I'm going to jump forward with this to bring, I don't want to keep, you know me, I like to speak very directly and I like to give evidence. So let me speak about what I'm talking about more directly. When we look across the waters, at what is happening with Kanye West. One question was, or statement was mentioned, and I agree with this statement. When Kanye West, and I'm not a supporter of this, I hasten to add, when he made that very outrageous statement a few years back, that 400 years of slavery, that sounds more like a choice. We didn't see his supporters, we did not see those corporate industries withdrawing from him for making such statements. The question has to be, why not then and why now? Those two questions. And again, it's because of visibility. And when we talk about visibility, my brother, we're talking about visibility in not only tangible, but with regards to effectiveness, with regards to inclusion, with regards to involvement in society, with regards to presence. Because if all of that was there on a par to other ethnicities, other cultures, we would see an equilibrium established in how blackness, black people, black cultures are dealt with comprehensively. And I hope I'm being clear at the moment, Bilal. When I say comprehensively, that's in contrast to how we are dealt with today. In compartments, we are compartmentalized. So if you are into sports, that compartment has been widened for us to fit into that. If you are into music, that compartment has been widened for us to fit into. When it comes to politics, when it comes to other compartments of society, the mosaic that makes up society, you'll see that we are always being corralled, and I use that word clearly, corralled into particular compartments. And if the exception for one or two to get into other compartments, like senior positions in politics, being the head of a university, for example, that's because it's through the door of tokenism, and or those who have walked through those doors into those compartments are speaking with a narrative that is conducive to the dominant narrative, of which I believe is institutionalized racism and cultural imperialism.